Hey there, boils and ghouls. Welcome to this week's episode of Halloweekly. Nick and George here with a door. A door and a maze. No, so this week we wanted to talk about Westworld. Westworld just came back, and we wanted to. There's been some articles about Westworld and horror and meshing the two together, and let's just jump right into it.
Welcome to Westworld. Which would you prefer?
This place is the answer to that question that you've been asking yourself. What question? Who you really are.
It's not a business venture, not a theme park, but an entire world. And we create life itself.
Yeah, and you were like, "We're back with a door." I was like, "It's our IKEA episode." Yes,
there's 30 bits, there's 30 parts we got to put together.
I love that you were like, "Westworld just came back." It's been like 5 years on hiatus, and now we're like, finally getting an update on the season. So
it's been a while.
Yes,
but before we jump into Westworld, head on over to our iTunes page, subscribe, and give us one of them shiny 5-star reviews. It means the whole world to us. Or if you're not into the iTunes thing, head on over to Spotify, hit follow. It is a great app, and you'll love it forever and ever and ever till the end of time. And I can't think of a robot pun. Luckily, if you are a robot, still consider giving the review.
yeah, for sure. There's no captchas on our review,
and,
so don't worry about it.
And don't kill us.
Is that how you pronounce that thing?
A captcha?
Yeah.
I believe so.
Fantastic.
It's a captcha. But I've actually seen videos of robots getting past,
defeating it. Yeah,
so
for sure.
If you are, great. If you are, we can't tell you what to do anymore.
We'll do a breakdown at the end of the episode of what Westworld hosts we think could pass the CAPTCHA test. I'm pretty sure almost all of them are going to make it.
I think they all will.
Except for like primitive young Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah,
he probably handle it too.
Hey, he I don't know if I want him to give him. He has that weird voice. He's like, all right.
You're like, I didn't even want to test him. Just let him go by. He's creepy.
You want to test? I'm like, please no. But before we get into the deep web of Westworld,
yes,
there's been a little bit of horror news, and normally we're not an echo chamber for news, but some things just need a little bit more echoing. So the word on the street is now they're super secretive about trailers. People used to sneak in their phones and used to see it, and it was great. Right. I know the filmmakers hated it, but it was great for people like us who don't go to the Comic-Con.
Right.
But the word on the street is the Halloween teaser is out. And I saw someone do like a play-by-play of it, and that's the feeling I love, the hype train.
Yep.
Because at first I was like, I thought I was in like this meditative state of Halloween going, it'll be great when the trailer comes out. It'll be fantastic when the movie comes out, and I can wait patiently. I see that news, and I'm like, I need to see it.
I've never heard anyone meditate out of horror before.
I was just like, but I knew if I read some shit about it, I was gonna go through the roof about it, and I was gonna get so excited. Goddamn, I read like the breakdown of it. I don't know if I.
So I have a question before you get to the breakdown. I'm just curious. Can we? Because I'll crowdfund this if it's possible. Yeah. Can we get like a courtroom sketch artist in there when they do these? I will.
Oh, that'd be great.
I'll just look at them.
Well, most of it's a dark crowd with lights on the stage.
They just need night vision goggles. I don't mind. I'll look at this.
Then it would look like a crowd full of like the creatures from The Descent looking up at a screen.
Can you imagine like the sketches of like Jamie Lee Curtis and it would be anyway. Go ahead.
That'd be horrifying. Well, just I read it. I don't have it in front of me, but I remember some
of the key details.
Some of the key details. Yep. One being that Michael gets his mask back, which just.
We knew he was going to get a mask, but he gets his original mask back, and he gets it from a victim somehow. Mm-hmm. That's what we read. That's what I heard.
One of the other things was he kills a woman in a bathroom stall and he like sort of freaks her out by dropping teeth. I
can't even picture that. I really need a sketch artist for that one.
And then the person who posted it said, "But they play it serious." It's like, thank you.
Yeah, I mean,
that's a detail that's either followed up with a laugh track or no. they're straight shooters about it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's just a weird weird move on their part.
And then they said Jamie Lee Curtis is now she's like a warrior now in this.
Yeah, she'd been training her whole life. It's sort of Sarah Connor, right?
A little bit, yeah. And so I that's all we know. I'm sure.
Well, no, there's more. And then there was the one thing you had mentioned that about him being committed.
Oh,
Michael was committed post the original murders, right? So, and I don't even know. How locked in is this? Like, because I heard that they screened a rough cut and things could change.
I think that was bullshit.
That was bullshit.
Yeah. There was an article. I think someone in our Hollow Weekly group posted it, and everyone's like, no, it's false. Like,
so speaking of, I've heard, and I would love for anyone listening to let us know their opinions on this. I don't want to call out, but there's a certain website that I've heard is completely not credible on horror news, and they have news in their name, so that should be easy to find. And I'm seeing their links a lot, especially with Halloween, and they were the ones who pushed that rough cut narrative, and that the audiences hated it narrative. And I think all of that is probably crap.
Well, we're about to Fahrenheit 450 them
Yes.
and block their links. That's shitty. It's like, most people talk about clickbaity articles, and it's like number 7 will blow your mind, but like that's fine. I know it's clickbait,
sure.
But when you're being like a fucking liar about it, then it's just like, what's the like?
Yeah, if the headline's completely disingenuous, or if you're taking one detail out of a story and twisting it to whatever, then I'm just gonna come find you and drop teeth on you, man.
I'm gonna drop teeth on you and put a gross 40-year-old mask over your head and punch you in the face.
But I'm actually more excited. You got to Google this if you haven't seen it. Mm-hmm. It's such an illustration of the difference between reality and fantasy in the favor of fantasy. Mm-hmm. But I saw posted a side by side of one of the original Halloween masks in real life, next to the mask they released for this poster. The mask in the poster is completely stylized and like whatever. And the original mask is still basically white, but completely stretched out like a birthday balloon. like it's the most disappointing.
I remember I remember reading somewhere on it was like a horror movie mask forum or something like that. It was like not on Facebook. It was like way before that, because like I remember like I had a few Halloween masks that I really liked to display, and I was reading articles about the forum, wherever it was, about other people who collect masks, and they're like, it's gonna deteriorate. There's nothing you can do about it, so it's gonna look like shit.
Yeah, but it's gonna deteriorate like unglamorously. If it deteriorated like the one in the poster, I'd like buy 100 and just let it.
It just rips and loses color, and it doesn't look cool. Yeah. So I'm sure there's a way to preserve them, but
no, I'm glad that we got the fantasy version of a 40-year-old distressed mask. So, but I'm actually more excited to see this than I was before. So
I know the more the news comes out, and then John Carpenter confirmed to score it. Like it's just they're just teeing it up to be. Yeah. I was just thinking about it today, going like, I hope this is like the way, because like other franchises, they're correcting the wrong for Halloween and the path it took. I just hope that this is like the final nail that ends it on such a note that like it reminds me of like I think there was a comic book where the Silver Surfer like blows himself up or sacrifices himself so the whole globe can experience like 2 minutes of peace. That's what I hope. That's what I hope this Halloween is.
That's a great
Is it comes out and everyone just kind of goes, yeah.
Honestly, I don't think that I've ever seen the horror community this nervous about a high-profile project. Not in my memory. Like, they weren't like this for 2013 Evil Dead. They weren't like this for Nightmare remake, the Elm Street remake, although they should have been. Mm-hmm. They weren't like, it's this, like, everyone's just really nervous. And the funny thing is, I feel more reassured now because I just feel like this is a win-win. I'm just going to go see the movie. And if it's terrible in the first 10 minutes, I'm just going to close my eyes because it's John Carpenter scoring it.
Yeah. Then you're
well, you can't lose. All you got to do is just like lean back and listen, right?
And that's the thing is like I go on like the horror subreddit and people are like, what are your thoughts on Halloween? And I'm like, nobody knows. What the fuck you asking for? And like you were mentioning the nervousness that everyone's feeling. Mm-hmm. So the only thing I could compare it to is like finding out if you're the father or not on Maury. It's just like when it comes out, Maury Povich is gonna have an audible going, and the Halloween 2018 reboot is amazing, and then the crowd's gonna go wild. It's gonna be great. So that's my prediction.
That's awesome.
That's my prediction. So
Good prediction.
That's really the only horror movie news. And then on our side of things, with our interactive horror game Telltale Midnight over at our Patreon, it's patreon.com/Halloween. Interactive horror game. Right now we are at the Horror Hotel, and last night's story just dropped at midnight, thus the name.
Yes.
And the details our writers are putting in there is so gory and amazing.
Yep.
Like it feels like the scene when oh God rest his soul and Texas Chainsaw Massacre when the sheriff has the guy move the teeth off the side.
Yep.
Imagine that scene, but in the Overlook Hotel or the Cecil Hotel here in LA.
Yep.
That's what this story felt like.
I had my first official nightmare of the story after reading the story. So, I mean, there are some details in there that you just can't get out of your head.
What's funny is you read it and it feels crunchy, which is usually good when you talk about food, bad when you talk about literally everything else. If anything else in life is crunchy, that's not good. Potato chips, and like chicken fingers, great.
How about peanut butter?
I'll give it that, but that's food. So there you go. So that makes it there. But we got a lot of deaths going on in there, which is fantastic.
We also have a lot of people coming back to life, which the more it happens, the more I realize that's really sort of like a horror franchise. I'm liking it because people are using their horror knowledge and skills to answer questions that earn them ways back into the game. We had posted just a mind-boggling picture of Yvonne Carlo, who played Lily Munster, and had them identify, but it was from super young, not in makeup at all, like not in the horror makeup. And as soon as people realized who it was just kind of mind-blowing.
It was like an oh duh, like how do I not know?
Exactly.
And then even on our live streams, we're giving out some lives or some lives or extra roles.
Yep.
Mainly because we had one member who was able to link. We talked about sub genres in horror, and we were like, if you can find a film that links like all these together, was amazing. You'll get one. And then someone, I think it was Jake, he came on and linked them all together. He's like, by the way, it's this film. And we're like, okay, well, you are
shout out to Jake.
You are a sorcerer.
Yeah,
and
that was like watching someone juggle swords while dribbling a basketball and like singing.
It was watching somebody speed run Jigsaw's traps. They're like, I know how to do it. You got to do this, you got to do that, backflip over that, and you're
perfect.
And you're good to go. So that was fun. So that's Patreon. If you want to get in on the action, which I suggest you do, it is so much fun. And the Discord is poppin'.
Yes,
it is. Patreon.com/Halloweekly.
See you over there.
Beautiful. All right. So now the jelly inside the donut.
Yes.
Westworld.
Yes.
Now some people are probably listening to this going, this is a horror podcast. What the hell are you doing talking about Westworld?
Let us explain.
Well,
yeah. So first of all, I'm excited that it's back. It's one of those shows.
It seems like not that long ago they were like, by the way, you're not getting it for like a year,
right? Yeah, for sure.
And now we're here.
And I'm here's the thing, there's no world to me in which Ex Machina is relevant to horror fans in Westworld, is it?
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Right. So and there's also, I don't want to live in a world where horror fans are only focusing on Walking Dead and not paying at all any attention to Westworld, because that makes no sense to me either. Walking Dead is definitely more horror as the genre, right? But when I have this category of relevant to horror fans, and after seeing the debut episode of season 2 of Westworld, it's gorier, it's darker, it's scarier, it's more to the point, so it's less philosophical than the season 1. And season 1 I felt like was pretty relevant to horror fans.
Yeah.
So if the rest of this season plays out the way the first episode teed it up, I think it's going to be one of the best things on TV during this era that will scratch an itch that horror fans have for prestige, well done television.
And Ash just got canceled, so you got nothing else to watch.
Yeah, God damn it. That's right. That sucks. Oh man.
No, but I think they ended it the way they wanted to. Good for them. But this is about Westworld.
Yes,
we could do a whole episode.
We could
about that. So just to give them my backstory, I watched the first couple episodes of season 1.
Yep.
And then I watched the ending of the last episode of season 1, and then the recap. And just is how the relevancy to horror fans that I got from this first episode was when Walking Dead aired, because we're doing a little bit of comparison to Walking Dead.
For sure.
When Walking Dead aired, it was a lot of like putting myself in the survivor's shoes and be like, oh my God, I would totally do that. We would do this, that, and the other.
Yep.
And it sort of died off a little bit the further the series went.
Sure.
And I sort of stopped caring more about the characters. But even just watching the recap and the first episode of season 2, I was back into that mindset I had when I was watching the first season of Walking Dead. I was going, oh my God, if I was trapped in this world and these robots are on me, I would try to do this, I would die. Oh my God, I wouldn't be talking back to that robot. I'd be trying to be her friend. And like, and it hit me like, oh my God, like that's what makes those stories interesting is one, being entertained by them, but 2, putting yourself there.
Totally.
And when I put myself there, that feeling was not a happy feeling.
No, and you bring up an excellent point because, and I didn't even articulate it to myself until you just said that, but one of the things so Westerns, dramas, thrillers, they all have things like where you could think to yourself, what would I do in John McClane's shoes in this moment? Or what would I do, like, what have you? But I feel like the horror genre in general is heavier on that, and it lasts longer as an effect because you're in survival mode for most of the experience, for most of a horror movie or TV show, right? And
you get 15 minutes of comfort after that.
right, exactly, and maybe a little comfort at the end, depending on how they want to end it.
Yeah,
Like if they end it with the Frog Brothers, you feel okay. But here's the thing: like in this one, they actually call that out. So. There's a great moment in this one where Dolores, played by Evan Rachel Wood, who, by the way, plays a great villain in a lot of projects. She was amazing in Mildred Pierce, which is not no horror at all. It's a drama based on a classic novel. But she plays a really great and complicated, unexpected villain in that. So she's got the chops to play a villain really, really well. And she was not the villain in season 1, but it's very possible that she's season 2's big bad.
We'll get into that.
Yeah, we'll get to who the hell the villains and heroes are.
I love this
because I have questions for you about what you think about that. But the point is, there's a moment early on in this episode where she has humans and she's basically got nooses around their neck. She's in the process of not hanging them because she's doing something more complicated and interesting with it, but they're definitely probably going to die, and she's sort of torturing them while she's doing it. And she turns to one of the humans and she asks the human a question that same question has been asked to the hosts or robots in previous episodes, where she goes, "What are your drives?" And the woman who's hanging like bare by her neck, like just on her tiptoes, like if she loses balance, that's it. She's done. She's going to hang. She goes, oh my God, I don't want to die. And she thinks she's not answering the question. She's just like saying out loud, like what she's thinking.
Yeah.
And Dolores goes, oh yeah, survival. Of course that's your drive. Of course that's your basic drive, right? And they're having a conversation with each other, even though the woman who's hanging doesn't know it, that they're having a conversation. But that's the point, right? Is that this show really does put you in the mindset of us being in a survival mode for most of the experience, which is exactly what horror does.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's a great point that's, survival mode is definitely a thing here. Right?
The way I see it is, if I had to put it on like a scale, like left to right, not like a like American politics scale from left to right, but just to help visualize it. This is how I saw it. On the far left, you have Dolores.
Yes.
In the middle, you have Bernard, and on the right, you have the Man in Black, Ed Harris. And I almost see them as like the keystone for the train of thought for each camp.
Sure.
And it's almost like that's how it's set up in season 2. They swap it.
Right.
And by the end, I'm almost like it's so weird, like the connection we have to like the humans. Like Ed Harris is a piece of shit.
Right.
He's not nice.
Right.
He has no good intentions. But I gotta be honest, I was rooting for him at the end.
Yeah, and every time he came on the screen, you're like, he's here.
Oh, I loved him on screen. He's just a killer actor.
Yeah.
And the way I thought about it was is to wrap it to circle it to Halloween. It's almost as if like he's Michael Myers in that world, and then all of a sudden all the superstition stripped away from Michael, and now everyone's trying to kill him.
Right, now
and now all of a sudden you're rooting for the bad guy.
Right.
I love that.
Because they did flip that part of it, and it is interesting. And before we leave the hanging scene, I think that there's another really cool thing going on there, which is so Dolores says. It's actually a great delivery. It's sort of like villain monologuing.
She was total.
Right. Well, maybe
so,
because she's toggling,
to the
us.
humans.
Right. But she's toggling back and forth between the previous builds of her, the lives she's lived, right? So when the woman goes, "What are you going to do with us?" She goes, "Well, I'm of several minds about that," which is hilarious. But she goes, "The rancher's daughter wants to see the good in you and not retaliate." But the villain, Wyatt, which is her other build, apparently sees the ugliest and the chaos or whatever she says, right? Mm-hmm. And then she goes, but I have to play one last role, which is just me, right? So she's like, I'm at a balance point, right? So she's like, I'm not all good and I'm not all bad. I'm balanced between the two.
Yeah.
But you notice everyone else is killing people, executing people. At this whole episode opens with the security team arriving and just gunning down hosts, right? And every time Ed Harris is just killing people left and right? Everyone's gunning people down. She goes, I'm caught between these two drives, right? And then she leaves. She hasn't killed them, but she hasn't not killed them.
Yeah.
So she's literally, it's a physical manifestation of the balance, right? I mean, she's literally leaving people balanced. It made me laugh. If it wasn't so grim, it would have been funny because you could see her thinking like, man, I can't. Am I like you were saying on the scale? Am I left? Am I right? She's like, I don't know. I'm middle. And then she left everyone just standing in the middle, right? Oh. But with much less chance of living than dying.
Yes.
So I think she probably is going to end up being our big bad. But I'm not sure.
And that's what I'm wondering is I wonder if Ed Harris, I don't think he's going to have that's the thing. I'm wondering if he's going to have a redemption or not.
He did sort of in season 1 a little bit, or at least an explanation of why he became what he was.
Oh,
right.
Okay.
So like in season 1, he met Dolores and he fell in love with her. And then he went to meet her to continue their love story as a young man. And the next day, she just met someone else because she's just programmed to meet whoever shows up first. And he realized that it's all sort of a con, and it broke his heart, apparently. And he became pretty ruthless. It's a lot more complicated than that. But at least you knew why. You had some insight into why he was the Man in Black, right? Yeah. But he's reverted into like full-on Man in Black mode now. So now
him getting what he wanted to have, like, the stakes raised.
Yep.
Like, the joy he had.
Yep.
I think for me he's the most like I love
there was a really, really interesting visual detail. It happened really fast, but I feel like it had to have been on purpose, especially for a show this calculated.
I wonder if it's
what it was to me was it might be, but what they did a flashback to the Gala massacre that ended season 1. And in this episode, when they flash back to it, you see as Dolores shoots Anthony Hopkins and then starts gunning down humans, you see that her boyfriend Teddy is really upset by the fact that he's watching her
because he's programmed to be like good.
He's programmed to be basic.
Yeah.
And then you see that Bernard, Jeffrey Wright, is also really just off put by the fact that all of a sudden a massacre is happening.
Yeah.
The hosts aren't supposed to be able to hurt humans, but they flip to, and I think his name's Stephen Ogg. He was somewhat Negan's right-hand man in Westworld and Walking Dead. He was the one with the mustache.
Yeah.
He gets this really sadistic smile on his face watching Dolores start gunning down humans.
Yeah.
He's the host that seems to enjoy it the most. And it flips immediately to Ed Harris getting confronted by the Ghost,
Oh my God,
the
that
Ghost
shot
Nation army.
when they walked out.
And then when they shoot him, he gets the exact same smile. I feel like you could map his smile onto Stephen Ogg's face, and I feel like they're enjoying it for the exact same reason, right? So I think there is if there's a counterpart to the Man in Black in Westworld, I think it's that guy.
Yeah.
And that's not good news for Ed Harris, because that guy is a full-on nut job.
Yeah, he also did, and they didn't hang on the shot, but it felt like once he put his hat on, the camera panned onto him, he only started to grin a hair, and I was like, I wonder if they're gonna hang on that shot and have him grin, but they didn't.
No.
So you see the beginning of him smiling, and then they cut.
Yep.
And I was like, well, I'm glad they didn't show it because it'd be a little cheesy. But the fact you saw in his heart, he was so fucking thrilled.
Yep.
And
this conversation he had with the horse was the funniest thing in
God.
the episode. It was great. He was just like, we're gonna have fun now. was absolutely classic. Another horror element I want to give a quick shout out to is because there are a lot of parallels between this and Jurassic Park, obviously.
Yeah.
And I think that the use of animals is really interesting and something that a horror fan would really perk up to watching it, because the animals are both threatening and not, in sort of a way that, I always had a secret sympathy for Bruce in Jaws.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not later in Jaws 4, he's, basically
He's a bit of a
homicidal. He's a bit of a dick. Yes, he is a bit of a dick. But that just makes me want to see all different guys. I want to see hipster Bruce and all kinds of other. But anyway, but it's the thing is that in this one, we get a jump scare from a bison, which is actually pretty terrifying.
Yeah.
We see a massacred Bengal tiger, which is pretty upsetting, and there's a great scene where we linger on the real dead bodies, which is pretty gory and very detailed. I thought it was more effective than most of the shit I've seen on Walking Dead for the last 2 years, of where the massacre happened and all the humans are rotting and maggots are eating them and flies are landing on them. And you just see this wolf weaving in and out of the bodies. And that, just the animal element, and it's really on my mind because I think one of the most effective horror scenes of the whole year is that freaky ass bear from Annihilation.
Oh yeah.
And I felt like there was very similar touches in this. This is a good year for monster design and scary animals in
The whole time when they saw at the end the ocean or whatever,
The sea?
the
Yep.
sea. I kept thinking of that big dinosaur in Jurassic World. I was like, "Are we gonna get a big?" It's completely.
It's coming.
I knew in my heart it wasn't gonna happen. I knew
Right.
we're not gonna get a giant sea monster, but at the same time, I go, "It's Westworld."
What is that thing's name anyway? I forget. It's like Megabyte or something.
Megabyte assistant killer. It's like, I think is probably what it was credited with.
Yes.
But yeah, no, the animals were great, and even Ed Harris, or the Man in Black, when he goes to Anthony Hopkins' old home, he grabs some kind of jerky or something that's hanging over a campfire.
Well, no. So that scene, he actually is returning to a place where he almost died in an earlier episode of, or right before the gala in the end of season 1, and that's when Anthony Hopkins' young robot confronts him, right, in this one, and you're right. He is he's almost first blooding it. Right? He's like, I'm going to grab any jerky I find sitting on a stick.
Grabs a canister full of water. He's just salvaging everything from
he's living off the land. He's like, this is not, it's going to get really interesting watching him go off on his mission. And the fact that he has decided to sort of end I don't know how purposeful this is, but, I feel like it's possible that the Westworld creators or showrunners or whoever's, doing this now is, I feel like they might have realized they went a little far with all the complicated layering in season 1, with all the riddles and the clues and the time jumps and whatnot, because this is a lot more contained into potentially just a 2-week time period instead of 3 decades in season 1. But what really caught my eye was that moment you're talking about, because young Robert gives the Man in Black a series of clues about the new game. He's like, there's a new game. You got to find the door. You got to find your way out. And he goes, the game will start where you began or end where you started or whatever. And he goes, even now you're talking in code. And the young Robert actually has a great line. He's like, everything's code here. You know that better than anyone, William. But he goes, all right, well, I don't need you anymore if the game's going to find me. And he just shoots him in the head. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing is I feel like there were a lot of people who really wanted to get into Westworld. But as soon as someone showed up on the scene and started talking like fortune cookies, they just wanted to shoot him. And it happened. He started talking in riddles and he's like, well, bang. And that's almost like an analogy for like, I think this is going to be a lot more streamlined season.
Yeah.
Would be my guess, right?
Yeah, no, that scene, for me, anytime he was on screen, I was like, my ears perked up, my eyes widened. I was like, all right, what's he going to do now?
Yep. So we found an article online that I thought was interesting from Dread Central. We want to give a shout out to them for the excellent article and also the writer of it. So we'll get to that in a second. But they asked some of the cast members, how is Westworld relevant to horror fans, or why would horror fans watch it? And they had some really interesting answers.
Yeah.
One of their answers was Westworld forces you to confront the concept of death. So I can't think of anything more apropos for a horror
that's
genre
what starts
than
pretty
that's
much
what it is.
The whole thing.
But before we get to the article, it just makes me curious in terms of scariness. Like Westworld makes me pretty uneasy. Mm-hmm. Definitely gives me nightmares. And the implications of some of the things that happen here are pretty gruesome and pretty bothersome, right? So, like, there's an innocent, quote-unquote innocent, basically helpless stable boy who gets massacred early on in this thing.
Yeah.
For nothing, really, by a bunch of humans. I think he ultimately gets pitchforked in the chest, but there's a lot of shit that goes down before that.
They just beat the snot out of him.
Right, exactly. And it's pretty horrifying. So I guess my question for you is what uneasy elements or implications of whatever jump out to you? Mine, I'll get to after your answer, is I'm terrified by the whole concept of AI in general. So that adds scare elements to this to me and makes it relevant to me as a horror fan because I don't like that stuff. But what is scary or unsettling in this?
Well, so I think number one for my answer too would be the AI element of it to it. But the second thing actually, you know what? That'd probably be number two for me. And number one was the feeling of being trapped there because there was no help coming. And to me, that's way more terrifying because even if you can outsmart the AI and say you kill all of them,
right,
you're stuck.
You're still trapped there.
So you still have to find a way out.
Right. And even if whoever's coming to get you probably aren't good, it's because they're headed by a Skarsgård, by the way. We met a new character who wasn't in season 1. He's basically the head of operations for Delos, the company that runs the parks. Mm-hmm. And you can tell he's pretty ruthless because he sees a replay of one of the hosts, Dolores, massacring people, and he just cracks up because he thinks it's hilarious. So he's not a normal individual. Not normal. He's pretty ruthless. So that's your rescuer. Even if someone does come for you, they're bad people.
And they mentioned like help wasn't coming because they wanted someone for insurance.
Yeah. So the host, the decommissioned host, Peter Abernathy, is a very important to Delos, and they were waiting for that host body to be delivered to them before they went to rescue people. And apparently that didn't happen for 2 weeks, potentially. And that host, by the way, if anyone, I don't know what the Oscars or Emmys or whoever's responsible for this shit or what they were thinking, but that guy played a scene in season 1 where he out monologued Anthony Hopkins face to face, fully naked. That doesn't even seem like that should be possible. But
what a handicap!
He did, I know, but he did it. He went toe to toe with one of the greatest living greatest actors ever, and stole the scene from him. And like it was just. He just had this great monologue that was Shakespearean and like whatever. He's a very intense guy, and he's been upgraded to a season regular for this season. So we're going to see a lot more of him in the coming episodes, which I'm excited for because he's a great actor with a lot of like really intensity and charisma. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's the thing is they were waiting for that guy to be delivered, which was delaying their rescue. And the fact that they would just let everyone on the island die as a trade-off for one piece of like IP property means that you're.
Well, they said it was worth billions. So.
Yep.
And they were all about the money, Lebowski. So. They didn't.
they absolutely were. And that's the thing is, I think the AI element is I remember. And I feel like I got to Google this because I feel like I've told this story 3 times and now I'm starting to suspect that's a false memory. But I swear that at some point I watched an interview or a panel with Roger Ebert, and it was not just him; it was a film critics a round table, and they had asked him who cinema's greatest villain was, and he had named Hal from 2001, which I agreed with because Hal is terrifying, right?
Sure.
And that whole idea that AI, I mean, basically at one point in this episode of Westworld, the writer of the narratives in the park is basically kept as a pet by Maeve and her and Hector. So isn't there a song like Pets where we make great pets or something like that? We'll put it in this episode because I think it's Porno for Pyros. But that's the thing is that concept of we invented them, but they're going to become smarter, stronger, basically invincible, and then we're relegated to like a subspecies. I just think is just a terrifying concept in general, right? So, and I think this show really, really nails that, or at least it is so far. Hopefully the rest of the season goes as well as it has so far, because I really liked the first episode. The article that we were talking about.
Who's the writer of the article?
The writer of the article is Josh Milliken?
Yeah, it screwed me up too. Sorry if we botched it, dude.
Hey, I wouldn't have got it wrong. See, I'm inferior. I'm telling you. So it's although I wouldn't have got it wrong, but they would have read it that weird way that I like YouTube News reads now.
Oh my god.
Josh Milliken has.
It would be Josh Milliken.
Yeah, we still got the edge on you. AI. Come at me. So it's they had asked the cast members, and Luke Hemsworth said, so they asked him, complete the sentence. If you love horror movies, you should watch Westworld because ... And Luke Hemsworth said, if you love horror movies, watch Westworld because it's really gory. He went straight to the point.
He was like, you like blood?
Played like a true Hemsworth. Is pretty dark and very smart. Angela Savarian said, you should definitely watch Westworld because it makes you face death. It's a show that questions your mortality. The show not only projects these feelings, but makes you think about the boundlessness of human destruction and how far can we take reality. And then Clifton Collins Jr. said, this is my favorite answer. You should watch it because you get the same rushes you get from scares in a horror movie. Those thrilling and suspenseful events happen in the show. Just from reading it, I can tell season 2 is really cranked up compared to season 1. Mm-hmm. You're going to have those moments where your heart palpitates and skips a beat and you sweat, and there's a lot of oh my God moments. There are serious white knuckle moments in the season. It's very similar to thrills you get from a top-notch horror film. So, which is exactly how I felt like watching it. So I think that's a really interesting way to look at why it's relevant to the horror field.
I think having the main cast answer that question
right, exactly,
perfectly lines it up with.
Speaking of, let's wrap this up with the probably most disturbing moment of the episode, which is how it ends. Right. So the camera is going to pan over. They're trying to locate. All the hosts are gathered. Even that was creepy. The idea that all the hosts gathered at some random point in the park and they didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah.
Like I just pictured them all in like a big circle worshiping Dolores or something, something weird, like when they got there.
Yeah.
And then they show up and they're all floating face down, up, like whatever, dead in a sea. And
that wasn't there
in the original park, and they don't know how the creators of the park don't know how it was added. Well, not the creators, the current caretakers of the park don't know how it was added. And they ask Bernard what happened, and he goes, "I killed them. I killed them all." But he seems disturbed by the fact that he killed them, and he killed them all. And I just thought that was a very, very creepy moment. The first time I watched it, when I realized what was happening, I had the same reaction I have like when I watch a really good horror film. Like when I was watching Quiet Place, and I realized that Emily Blunt was going to give birth, and I realized that she was going to have to try to stifle any sound of that giving birth. And then she steps on the nail and she drops the object, and all of a sudden you realize that she's going to have to try to give birth and not get killed. And when I realized the place that the filmmakers were putting me in, I remember just saying out loud under my breath, like, oh, damn it. And the same thing happened here, right? Like they pan over and I'm like, I'm really invested in the host. I'm starting to get on their side. I'm like, feeling like, and all of a sudden they're just all dead, like a massacre. I was like, what? Oh no. And it's the same feeling, right?
Yeah, that's the thing that sucks about like, once a week shows that we can't just binge like Stranger Things.
God damn it.
That's the only thing that really bites about that. I'm like, man, you tell me like, I gotta wait now? That sucks.
Well, and we should say that Reddit had done an amazing job of spoiling season 1 for everybody, if that's what you wanted. Their fan theories were pretty on. They had figured out most of where season 1 was headed, which led to a sort of epic troll of Reddit by the Westworld creators, who had promised a complete spoiler video if they got enough upvotes on Reddit, and then they got them, and then they basically rickrolled Reddit. But I think they are going to do. I think it's on the mind of the Westworld people to make sure that they don't let that happen again. So I think you're right. I think not only are we going to have to wait week to week, but I think we're not even going to be able to guess where this is going now, because they're not going to make that.
That's probably why it took them a year to come back. They're like, God, damn, we got all these, armchair detectives on the internet figuring us out.
Damn it, Reddit. So yeah, really excited. I think it's an excellent debut for one of the best shows in the last 5 or 10 years. And I think it's got some really, really scary, dark moments that.
And for someone like me, who watched the first few episodes, and I thought I was going to watch it with a significant other, but she was like, I'm not into it. So I'm like, all right, I'll watch it later. Then you never make time to watch it. I think watching what we did today was perfect. Watching the last 15 minutes of season 1, the last episode, then going into because season 2, episode 1 begins with a really great recap that pretty much fed me all the information I needed to know. So if you feel like, I don't have the time to invest in it and the whole first season, just do that.
Yeah, you can get pretty caught up. I mean, I recommend watching the whole thing, but the thing to know is, and it said that actually in the article here, where one of the cast members said this is really cranked up compared to season 2, is the one thing about season 1 where I still felt like it was dark and like a lot of horror fans would like it, but the pacing was way off for horror. Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not the kind of, you have to be the kind of horror fan that likes something like Picnic at Hanging Rock to really like season 1 in its entirety.
Yeah.
Because the pacing here feels closer to what a horror fan would be accustomed to.
Yeah.
At least with the episode we're into so far. So I think you're right. Like, I think you can literally blitz into if that's what you're.
And there's a sense of dread that I felt from this episode. Like, the whole thing was just dread being stretched over an hour and 10 minutes or however long the episode was.
And plus, we haven't even mentioned we haven't even got to Samurai World yet.
You know what's funny is you were thinking Samurai World, and since we started with Halloween, I was like, I wonder if they have Haddonfield, like a Haddonfield world.
They need one.
Wouldn't that be something?
Or like Shining World, like they had in Ready Player One. Let's do it.
Oh, that'd be great. Well, there it is. That is our recap, if you will, for Westworld. And
yeah, check it out and let us know. Give us feedback and your thoughts. We're curious to see what other horror elements people pick up in the show that we missed.
And I'm excited to see what other horror, because it looks like it's only going to get worse in a good way.
Exactly.
In a good way. All right. Well, until next time, watch a bunch of horror movies and television shows, and stay scary.
Bye, guys.
Bye.